I want to first start with a huge congratulations. I know that this film has been a long time in the making for both of you. Maybe before we get into questions, can you each introduce yourselves? And then I know there are also a lot of team members from this film who are in the audience if you want to give folks a shout out as well.
Yeah. I'm Sasha. I'm the director of River of Grass.
Hi, my name is Houston Cypress, and I'm from the Otter clan of the Miccosukee tribe, and I'm happy to be with you all here.
We have so many incredible, talented artists who made this film with us, who are here in the audience. It would be a very long list to ever list everyone, so if you could please make noise, raise your hand, stand up. We have editors, consulting editors, composers, and directors, photographers, assistant editors. I think it's really I think we even have some prayer walkers in the audience too. So thank you. This film is definitely made by a group of incredible artists.
And a huge congratulations to all of you. I want to get into talking about craft before I open it up to the audience. So I'll just preface by saying that we'll start with a few questions, but if folks in the audience have questions, please don't be afraid to shoot a hand up and we will try to get to as many of you as we can. But let's talk about craft. This is a story that is about the very overwhelming and disproportionate impact that the climate crisis is having. And I think there is a very easy version of this film that could have been told with data sets and statistics and talking heads. And that's very much not what you do. You give us a very human entry point into this story and into this landscape. I'm wondering if the two of you could talk about how you work together to kind of build out a cast of characters that really guides us through the story.
Sure, and also thank you so much to Margaret Mead Film Festival and the American Museum of Natural History, and to all of you for being here. This is incredible to have all be in here together. So this project really began because I really didn't understand or know what to do with a sort of grief that I was having about, I guess, it's called climate grief, I learned later, but and I wanted to understand some of the histories and ecologies that were underpinning what was happening in the present day. And so I went to participate in a residency in the Everglades National Park, where I had the intention of doing broad research to make a film about the greater Everglades region and the watershed. And I also started reading Marjorie Stoneman Douglas's book, The Everglades River of Grass, which today is still considered one of the essential resource guides to the Everglades. And so I think through reading that book and beginning to really identify a series of kind of themes and locations, and then just reaching out to a wide range of people, my neighbors in the region who call this place home, I started to kind of identify a sort of network of participants who could kind of represent these maybe seemingly disparate stories that were happening, but that were inextricably linked by the watershed. And Houston was one of the first people I reached out to. Actually, we met at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Archives, I think the first week of my residency. And then my incredible cinematographer, Jay Bennett, joined, and we just started meeting people and filming. And sometimes one participant would lead us to someone else, or I also filmed in places like this wildlife hospital in the film. I volunteered there in middle school, so sometimes drawing upon like my own relationships, and it sort of snowballed. And I think, I'll leave it there for now.
It's really been a fabulous experience collaborating with you and supporting your vision on this project. And I think that one of the first things that brought us together was our appreciation and love for that text, that really amazing book that Marjorie wrote. And so that's part of how I helped out in terms of analyzing the book, diving deep into the structure, teasing out and picking out like our favorite parts, because one of the things that makes this book such a classic is the beauty of the language there. And I think that Marjorie does such a great job at giving voice to the land and the waters, and I think that you have kind of extended and built upon that technique of listening deeply and channeling and giving voice to these places. And so I think that that's what really, one of the first things that brought us together was our love for the text, and then just getting out on the land. Like, I was able to help provide some access, but to see how a talented artist and the talented team that you brought together was able to show me a place that I call home in such a new way. Like, congratulations, that's awesome. Thank you.
I also, just on the topic of listening, and also wanted to add and just acknowledge the incredible impact that Betty Osceola has had on many of our lives and the work that she's doing. She's also kind of somebody that I reached out to early on. Jessie and I met her at her airboat business on the Tamiami Trail, and I told her what I was thinking about, and she put gas in her airboat and said, get on, and then we went for this long ride. And at the end she said, I'm organizing this prayer walk. We're gonna walk 118 miles around the whole circumference of Lake Okeechobee in 7 days, and she invited me. And that walk very much impacted not only the structure of the film, but just my own relationship with home, and brought me into this broader community of people who are caring for this place and by extension each other.
Absolutely. Thank you both for the generous responses. I'm glad you bring up the act of walking around the lake, because I think there's this theme of a cyclical nature in this film. Whether it's walking around the lake or the cycles of nature, cycles of water, that's something that comes through very strongly in kind of every aspect of this film. Can you talk a little bit about how you brought that out in the edit and how you were thinking about that as a storytelling device?
Yeah, I think one of the ways that we approached the edit, this was, just to be totally frank, this was a very long edit process that had an incredible team behind it. And it involved a lot of trial and error and experimentation. But one thing that really was important was thinking about, I think the film has a kind of circular structure, much like the hurricanes, much like time, nonlinear time, the cycles of things. And I think the durational acts of actually reading a text and then walking a landscape very much shaped that structure that we have. The wet and the dry cycles, of course, are our main seasons. So really trying to get the feeling, both to teach about those natural cycles and the ways in which humans are, re-engineering them, but also to feel them. And so some of that was, I think a lot through the beautiful cinematography that is in the film, the visuals, and just sitting with and listening, a lot in the sound, trying to capture the sort of collective chorus of place. And other things you want to add?
I think that it's been really joyous to see how you've also woven the different musical elements. For example, there was some musical projects that were contributed by
Archival
feedback. That was beautiful. And so I think I'm just really fascinated by how you've woven the sounds together, because it's such an immediate way to enter into a place, to listen deeply. So I would like to offer that, to point those out.
Thank you both. I'm just gonna ask one more question before I open it up to audience members. I'm also thinking about the ways in which these cycles kind of give us a way of understanding nature as a character. We were talking the other day about something that was very important to you both, was thinking about the Everglades as a character and the way in which that comes across in the film. Can you talk a little bit about your perspectives on that and sort of what was top of mind as you were kind of building that out?
Yeah, Everglades' character, that's something, you know, we wanted this film to have a sort of like collective feeling, right? And that wanted the Everglades to really feel like a very grounded character, and to film the ecosystem as in the same way, with the same dignity and respect that we would film any subject, and to really think about the landscape and the ecosystem as not just background, but really foregrounded. And let's see, what else to say about that? I think that one thing that I was really moved by in particular in Marjorie's book, and is this way that she describes the Everglades as they, right, as this non-binary plural pronoun she very intentionally uses. And the Everglades themselves are this network of interconnected ecosystems that are all threaded together by water. So how to capture that sort of collective voice of the landscape, both through the watershed and also through all the people and the plants and the animals. And something that really resonated with me and struck me was the way in which Betty would speak about, through Miccosukee teachings, landscape as relative, land as relative or as ancestor. And Houston so beautifully states that, you know, it's a chosen family, right? And so we wanted that to really reverberate in the visuals and in bringing to life this character of the Everglades and sharing them with you.
And I really appreciated how you've been able to give us a sense of the galactic nature of the Everglades, and how its visual expressions kind of rhyme with the greater structures that we find ourselves in. And you've also been able to give us a little bit of that nighttime magic as well. I mean, so much of the joy of this place is that you get to see the things in the daytime, but there's so much fun to be had at night, and I'm glad that you were open to that as well.
Well, Houston organizes, I mean, Houston does a lot of bringing people from all walks of life, artists, scholars, scientists, you know, everyday Miamians into the Everglades, right? Because to get to know where we live, or to get to know the Everglades, is to love the Everglades more. That's actually the name of your organization, Love the Everglades. And one of the things that I got to participate in through the making of the film was stargazing with Houston and organizing these outings where we would camp at night and hang out and watch meteor showers. I think you said to me once, it's the river of grass, but at night it's the river of stars. And that really stuck with me.
Yeah. So I think keep that in mind, and then I know we're gonna have some conversations with the audience here, but overall, I just wanted to come and bring the New Year greeting. It's the new year for us back home in South Florida with the wet season and all of that. We just had our first big drenching rain yesterday, so Happy New Year, friends.
Happy New Year indeed. We have some time for questions. We've got one in the front. Can I ask you just wait for the mic to come to you?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Hi. Fantastic film. Disturbing, moving, everything all in one. But amazing. Is there any effort being made to undo the damage by the damming the dust of Lake October?
Yes, okay, so the question is if there's any effort to undo the damage. Yes, it's a really long-term effort, and so that's why we kind of have this sense of urgency, a sustained sense of urgency, and I think that we need your help as well. So what can you do? You can do a lot, but there is a sustained effort being led by folks in the indigenous community, people like Betty and others, and she's been a great coalition builder, reaching out to so many people in the broader community. But yeah, the effort is ongoing, and it is a long-term project, and sign up, come on.
And I think, yeah, there's absolutely an effort, and I think it's also important to acknowledge that I think many of the projects that are under the banner of restoration aren't actually so much about repairing the system, reconnecting what was once this connected, free-flowing expanse has become this fragmented landscape. A lot of the projects are not thinking holistically about the entire ecosystem and are often focused a little more on protecting property and increasing water storage, which yes, we need more water storage because there are way too many people in Florida. Yet I think that's an important distinction, right? Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have time for a couple more questions. Do some other
Thank you.
ones in the back? Moving with purpose, yes.
We have a question here, which is to know a little bit more about the python skins and that sort of cycle, because it was noted that the python skins were there on the table. So we were wondering that over here.
A question about the python skins. So thank you for the questions, really appreciate it. So the pythons, you know, they're one of many what's considered invasive species. They're just the most infamous. There are many others, and people like Donna and her daughter are actually contracted by the state of Florida to go out and remove them from the ecosystem because they're eating all of our native mammals. And what Donna does afterwards is, unfortunately, those snakes are euthanized and removed. It's not their fault. I really was struck by the love and care that Donna and Deanna have for the snakes. A lot of people who do this go out because they love reptiles, they love snakes. But what she's doing is she kindly euthanizes these snakes. She dissects them and tracks what they're eating and sends that data back to the state, and then sometimes makes things like coasters and belts and shoes out of their skin.
It's all a cycle. Other questions in the back?
Is there a particular scene or animal or moment that was really important for each of you to show in the film? Like a location or a moment or like a phenomenon that happens in the Everglades that you felt was really crucial for people to understand and love it the way you do?
It's so hard to choose just one because they all feel so connected. I know for myself, I'll say that actually bringing my own voice and perspective into the film was a later addition. I frankly resisted it for a long time, and I think, it was important in the end for me to ground the film in kind of a container and a perspective, and to share my relationship with home and my own positionality. And I guess one of the scenes that's most vulnerable and personal to me is the I Remember scene, which includes a lot of a mix of archival but also footage from in and around where I grew up. So that's one thing that sort of sticks with me.
For me, I think there's so many moments of beauty along the way, but there's one section that the Everglades Transcendence with Betty Osceola, where she's talking about water and memory, and then we kind of go into some kind of light glimmer magic moment. Like that's for me so beautiful. So that's one of the many moments of beauty that stick out for me in the film. So thank you.
Yeah, I think it was really important for our team to both hold the violences that are occurring there, the difficulties and the human-made ongoing destruction, but also to really hold and highlight the beauty and the joy and abundance of this space, and what we feel in this place, and also to understand the Everglades is also a site of resistance.
I think that is a really beautiful note for us to end on. Sasha, could you maybe just tell folks where they can find the film and follow along for more?
Thank you, I so appreciate that. So yes, because I always forget. So please, this is just really the beginning of our journey. And it's so special to have shared the film here in New York with so many friends and family and people who've contributed to this project. But you can follow us on Instagram, River of Grass Doc, Or check out we have a website, rivergrassfilm.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter and find out about future screenings and read about just the incredible team of artists who made this film.
And check out Love the Everglades.
Oh yeah, and of course.
Yes, to learn more about how you can support conservation efforts, follow Love the Everglades movement on Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you.